in her new book, Peggy Grande, the former executive assistant to Ronald Reagan after his years at the White House, takes you behind the scenes with a very personal look into the president's life, his relationship with First Lady Nancy Reagan, and his struggle with Alzheimer's disease.
Would you go out there and win one for the Gipper?
He was known as the great communicator, inspiring millions with his warmth, faith, and everyman demeanor.
You can't help but be changed by Ronald Reagan.
And few knew him like Peggy Grande. In her new memoir, The President Will See You Now, Grande recounts her decades serving as Reagan's executive assistant post-White House through his passing in 2004.
You say in the book that you got to see his true self.
It was wonderful to see that there really weren't two Ronald Reagans, whether it was with world leaders who came from all around the world to visit him and pay respects to him, or interacting with my own children, or ordinary Americans. He loved them all and really just had a graciousness.
This is the largest of all the presidential libraries, right?
It is.
We spoke at the majestic Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, home to his Air Force One and memorabilia from his life.
He talks about how close you were in your relationship, and you have to get some signatures from the president. You show up at his home in Bel Air.
I was still very young. I hadn't worked for him very long. I drove up to the house. Secret Service let me in, and here comes the president around the corner in his monogrammed bathrobe and his pajamas, and I was horrified. He didn't seem to be bothered.
He had that warmth, that sense of humor, but his critics, some of them called him an amiable dunce. How did he react to that?
A lot of times think he used that to his advantage, because if they thought he was an amiable dunce, he was able to kind of go around them and outsmart them.
Now inevitable comparisons between Presidents Reagan and Trump. Both voted in to shake up the status quo.
Donald Trump, the way he talks to the American people, now he uses Twitter. We didn't have that, but I have to believe that Ronald Reagan would have been a tweeter.
Really?
I do, because it was important to him to talk to people. Not about people, not above them, not beneath them, but right to them.
What advice do you think he would give President Trump now?
I think he would remind President Trump that it's all about the people. Ronald Reagan just never thought it was about him. And so as long as we're listening to we the people, as long as we are empowering we the people, we can't go wrong.
Grande says the greatest person in Reagan's life was his First Lady, Nancy. Their love deepening even further after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1994.
How did she handle that?
With strength, like she did everything, with a grace and a poise and an elegance that we all look to keep us strong.
Being so close to the president, you saw some of the first signs. What were they?
He was such a great storyteller. So it was little things like getting caught up in the middle of a story. I knew he knew how the story should go. It was things like that that I thought, I wonder if something's changed. I wonder if something's going on.
Grande says despite his memory fading, the president's warmth and charm remained. She was by his side as he wrote his famous letter to the American people disclosing his diagnosis.
They thought it was important to use their platform as somebody very visible and public to use it for good.
You asked him at one point, can I give you a hug? And that was the first time you'd ever hugged him.
Yeah. I said, Mr. President, would you mind if I gave you a hug? And I just felt like it was a way to say, I'm here for you, and we're in this together, and I will stick with you.
When was the last time you saw him?
It was probably a couple months before he passed away. I was just at his bedside and talking to him and just enjoying being in his presence. And it just gave me an opportunity to tell him how grateful I was for everything he had meant to me and say goodbye.
And again, the book is The President Will See You Now by Peggy Grande. It's a fascinating read with so many great stories. Guys, back to you.
All right, Natalie, thanks very much.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.